Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Cincinnati Bengals at the Pittsburgh Steelers in their Week 8 matchup played November 1st, 2015. We're going to go over all the scores and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. So starting off in the first quarter, about midway through the first, Big Ben Roethlisberger hit Antonio Brown for a 1-yard touchdown. Boswell added the extra point, and it was 7-0 at Pittsburgh over Cincinnati. Then with about 3 minutes left still in the first, Mike Nugent hit a 44-yard field goal for the Bengals. It was now a 4-point game with the score 7-3. So now in the second quarter, just seconds into the second quarter, Nugent would hit a 45-yard field goal, and it was now a 1-point game with the score Pittsburgh 7, Cincinnati 6. So that was the score at halftime in this low-scoring defensive battle. Then in the third quarter, about midway through, with about 6.5 minutes left in the third, Chris Boswell hit a 32-yard field goal, and it was 10-6 as the Steelers extended their lead to 4. So that was the score after 3 quarters of play. And now in the fourth quarter, things got kind of crazy. Of course, still in the third, we did have the block field goal by the Bengals. Is after that field goal by Pittsburgh in the third, Pittsburgh would block a field goal by the Bengals. But then in the fourth quarter, the Bengals had a drive where they started off on their own 17, just about a minute and a half into the fourth, and Dalton was intercepted. Now the Steelers would get the ball back, but they would go 3 and out. Now the Bengals would get the ball, and they would end up with another interception as Andy Dalton threw 2 fourth-quarter interceptions on back-to-back possessions. But first, the 3 and out as the defense held the Steelers, and now the defense would have to do it again, and the defense comes up big as the Bengals defense gets the interception. Williams with the pick, and now Andy Dalton and the Bengals would get the ball back, and they would get it down the field into the red zone, and it would end up with a 9-yard touchdown. Andy Dalton to A.J. Green, and with the extra point by Nugent, it was now 13-10 as the Bengals took the lead for the first time in this game. So after 2 fourth-quarter interceptions, Andy Dalton gets the ball back with some help from the defense, and he redeems himself with the go-ahead touchdown. And then now the Steelers get the ball back with about 3 minutes left in this game. And on the first play from scrimmage after the kickoff, Roethlisberger's intercepted by Nelson. And now it was the Steelers being intercepted as the Bengals defense comes up with their second pick in this fourth quarter. So we saw 4 interceptions in the fourth quarter, 2 by each team. And now the Bengals would march down the field, and Mike Nugent would hit a 44-yard field goal with less than 2 minutes left to make it 16-10 as the Bengals scored 10 points off of 2 interceptions, and the Steelers did not come away with any points off of the 2 picks that they got. But they would have the ball back for one last chance as there was still a little less than 2 minutes left in this game. They had it on their own 20, and on first down, Roethlisberger was sacked by Geno Atkins. That made it 2nd and 18 from the 12. Roethlisberger then went to Bryant. He picked up 16 yards. Now it was 3rd and 2 from the 28. And had a penalty against the defense for pass interference, so that would make it a first down on the 30. Roethlisberger then went to Williams. D'Angelo Williams picked up 9, but then there was a penalty for an illegal motion, so that would put him back 5 yards. So now Roethlisberger would go to Heath Miller. He picked up 13, and it was 2nd and 2 at the 38. Roethlisberger then went to Williams. He picked up 12 yards, and Pittsburgh took their second timeout with just over 30 seconds left to play in the ball at midfield at the 50-yard line. Then after an incomplete pass, it would be 2nd down. Roethlisberger then hit Miller for an 11-yard reception to make it a first down at the Cincinnati 39. Roethlisberger then went to Bryant 2 yards to the 37, 2nd and 8, 12 seconds left. Roethlisberger then goes to Bryant. He picks up 21 yards and a first down in the red zone at the 16 with 4 seconds left. So one last play with the ball on the 16, needing a touchdown to tie an extra point to go ahead with the score 16-10, and Roethlisberger under pressure, he puts it up. Antonio Brown catches it, but he's far out of bounds, past the end zone by a couple of feet, and this game came to a close. He caught the ball, but he was out of bounds. And so the Bengals come from behind, scored 10 points in the fourth quarter off of 2 interceptions to win 16-10. They remain undefeated at 7-0. It's the first time the Bengals have ever been 7-0 in their franchise history. They're 4-0 on the road, and the Steelers now are 4-4 on the season, 2-2 at home. And even with the return of Big Ben, they could not get things done here. I saw Le'Veon Bell go down at one point, and hope he's all right, though. I think he's okay, but we'll have to see. Is he actually, once he went down, I believe he actually, no, that's actually why Williams then was in there, so we'll see what happens. There was a few injuries across the board in Week 8 to some big players, but in this game, Andy Dalton, 23 for 38, 231 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Both of those interceptions coming in the fourth quarter, and that touchdown as well. He actually got that only touchdown he threw of this game after throwing those 2 interceptions. It was the only offensive touchdown for the Bengals in the game. And for Pittsburgh, Roethlisberger, 28 for 45, 262 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions, 2 of which came in the fourth quarter and led to the 10 points in the fourth quarter. The Bengals scored their only points in the fourth quarter, came off of those turnovers as they were able to turn them into a touchdown and then the field goal, and they end up winning this game with an amazing finish. And on the ground, D'Angelo Williams was the leading rusher. He had 9 carries for 71 yards. He also had 4 receptions for 39 yards. He got 110 total yards in the game. Le'Veon Bell, 10 carries for 45 yards, 2 receptions for 13 yards, as he had 58. Jeremy Hill had 15 carries for 60 yards for the Bengals. He also had 1 reception for 8 yards, giving him 68 total yards. And through the air, A.J. Green, 11 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown. And for Pittsburgh, Keith Miller, 10 receptions for 105 yards. And actually, Antonio Brown did have a touchdown, 6 receptions, 47 yards, and a touchdown for Antonio Brown. We look at the kickers. Chris Boswell, 1 for 1 on the field goals, 1 for 1 on the extra points. Nugent, 3 for 4 on the field goals. He had the 1 field goal blocked, and then 1 for 1 on the extra points. And on defense, for the Bengals, Reggie Nelson, 2 interceptions. Williams had the other pick. And then Johnson and Gilberry each had sacks, as well as Geno Atkins. And for Pittsburgh, Blake had an interception, as well as Mitchell. Dupree had a sack. Jones had a half sack. McClendon had a sack. And Shazier had a half a sack. Look at first downs, 21 first downs for Pittsburgh, 16 first downs for Cincinnati. And on fourth downs, the Bengals were 4 for 15, 26% converted. The Steelers 3 for 11, 27% converted. Total net yards, 356 for Pittsburgh, 296 for Cincinnati. On the ground, net rushing, 116 for the Steelers, 78 for the Bengals. Net passing, 240 for Pittsburgh. Roethlisberger was sacked 3 times, losing 22 yards. And for Cincinnati, 218 netted through the air, as Dalton was sacked 3 times for 13 yards. The penalties, each team was penalized 10 times, 20 penalties in the game, 94 penalty yards against the Bengals, 91 penalty yards against the Steelers. Then we look at the red zone. Both teams 1 for 3 as they were each 33% in the red zone. And the time of possession, 30 minutes, 9 seconds for Pittsburgh, 29 minutes, 51 seconds for Cincinnati. This was a very evenly matched game between these two AFC North division rivals. And it really came down to that fourth quarter as the Bengals were able to turn the turnovers into points. They capitalized on those opportunities. If you can't turn the turnovers into points on the scoreboard, then you're going to be in trouble even if you get those turnovers. If they don't turn into anything, then what good are they? As they did have those picks, but Andy Dalton really showing his resiliency and I guess his short-term memory as he forgot about his mistakes and he turned things around with that touchdown to A.J. Green as they went ahead for the first time in the game. Very resilient, just kept going, didn't give up, and a big performance by the Bengals. An excellent defense on both sides, for both teams. Pittsburgh did a really good job of holding that Bengals offense in check for the first 3 quarters, only allowing 6 points. But then when the Bengals defense forcing those turnovers, they were playing a heck of a game as well, shutting down that explosive Steelers offense with Roethlisberger at the helm in his return. Even though he's not 100%, Big Ben, he can throw touchdowns. He's had 6 in a game last year, but they were able to keep him to just 1 touchdown. Well, the Steelers just 1 touchdown and just 10 points in the game, and those 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter, 3 interceptions overall by the Bengals defense, putting Andy Dalton in the offense in the position to make the comeback in the fourth quarter. An excellent game by the Bengals, a hard-fought victory on the road. It's tough to go into Pittsburgh and win, especially when it's these 2 teams who play each other so tough, as they're so familiar with each other, playing each other twice a year at least. Is they might even see each other in the playoffs and play a 3rd game, so that'll be interesting to see how things shape up the rest of the way. But as for now, the Bengals are 7-0, Pittsburgh is 4-4, and the Bengals remain in first place. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great weekend and enjoyed all the sports.